The Ottoman Empire in 1876 was a realm in turmoil. Once a formidable power spanning continents, it was now grappling with decline. The reign of Sultan Abdul Hamid II began in this tumultuous period. He inherited an empire wrestling with internal strife and external threats. The once mighty Ottoman military had suffered defeats. Nationalist movements were gaining momentum within the empire's diverse population. European powers circled, eager to exploit any weakness. Abdul Hamid II was a complex figure. He was known for his intelligence and piety. He understood the gravity of the situation he faced. The new sultan was also acutely aware of the weight of history upon his shoulders. He was determined to restore the Ottoman Empire to its former glory. But the challenges were immense, and the path forward was fraught with peril. The decisions Abdul Hamid II made would shape not only his own destiny, but also the fate of the empire itself. The Ottoman Empire was a vast and complex entity. It was home to a diverse array of people, religions, and cultures. The empire was held together by a delicate balance of power. This balance had been eroding for centuries. By the time Abdul Hamid II ascended the throne, it was on the verge of collapse. The new sultan knew that he had to act quickly and decisively if he wanted to save his empire. Abdul Hamid II was a man of contradictions. He was a devout Muslim who believed in the importance of tradition. He was also a modernizer who recognized the need for reform. He embraced new technologies like the telegraph and the railway. He saw them as tools to strengthen the empire. However, he also feared that these same technologies could be used to undermine his authority. It was this fear that would ultimately lead him down a dark path. In the early years of his reign, Abdul Hamid II showed a willingness to embrace change. He implemented a series of reforms aimed at modernizing the Ottoman state. He invested in education and infrastructure. He sought to streamline the bureaucracy and improve the legal system. These efforts were met with cautious optimism both within the empire and abroad. One of the most significant reforms of Abdul Hamid II's early reign was the introduction of a constitution in 1876. This was a landmark event in Ottoman history. It was the first time that a sultan had voluntarily agreed to share power with an elected parliament. The constitution promised fundamental rights and freedoms to all Ottoman citizens. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the empire might be on the path to a more democratic future. The promise of constitutionalism, however, was short-lived. Abdul Hamid II grew increasingly suspicious of the parliament. He saw it as a threat to his own authority. He also feared that the parliament was being manipulated by foreign powers. In 1878, just 2 years after its inauguration, Abdul Hamid II suspended the parliament and dissolved the government. He would rule as an absolute monarch for the next 3 decades. The suspension of the constitution marked a turning point in Abdul Hamid II's reign. It signaled his shift from a reformer to an autocrat. He became increasingly isolated and paranoid. He surrounded himself with spies and informants. He clamped down on dissent, censoring the press and persecuting his political opponents. The Ottoman Empire entered a dark period of repression and fear. The decision to abandon the path of constitutionalism was driven by Abdul Hamid II's deep-seated fear and paranoia. He saw enemies everywhere, both within and outside the empire. He believed that foreign powers were plotting to overthrow him and dismember the Ottoman state. He also distrusted his own people, fearing that they would rise up against him. To maintain his grip on power, Abdul Hamid II built a vast network of spies and informants. This secret police force, known as the Yildiz Intelligence Agency, was tasked with rooting out dissent and eliminating any perceived threats to the Sultan's rule. The agency infiltrated all levels of society, from coffee houses and mosques to government ministries and military barracks. No one was above suspicion. The Sultan's paranoia extended to the press and the arts. He imposed strict censorship laws, banning any publications or artistic expressions that were deemed critical of the government or that he personally found objectionable. Journalists, writers, and artists who dared to challenge the regime were arrested, imprisoned, or forced into exile. The atmosphere of fear and repression stifled intellectual and cultural life in the Ottoman Empire. Public discourse was carefully controlled. Critical thinking and debate were discouraged. Abdul Hamid II's reign became synonymous with tyranny. The once vibrant Ottoman society became increasingly insular and stagnant. As Abdul Hamid II tightened his grip on power at home, the Ottoman Empire continued to face mounting challenges abroad. The empire had already lost significant territory in the 19th century. The rise of nationalism in the Balkans and elsewhere threatened to further erode Ottoman control. European powers continued to meddle in Ottoman affairs, seeking to advance their own interests at the expense of the weakening empire. One of the most significant external challenges faced by the Ottoman Empire during Abdul Hamid II's reign was the Russo-Turkish War of 1877 to 1878. The war was a disaster for the Ottomans. They suffered a humiliating defeat at the hands of the Russian Empire. The Treaty of San Stefano, which ended the war, imposed harsh terms on the Ottomans. They were forced to cede large tracts of land and grant independence to several Balkan states. The defeat in the Russo-Turkish War had profound consequences for the Ottoman Empire. It further weakened the empire's international standing and emboldened nationalist movements within its borders. The war also led to a massive influx of Muslim refugees from the lost territories into the Ottoman heartland. This added to the social and economic problems already plaguing the empire. Internal strife also posed a significant challenge to Abdul Hamid II's rule. The empire was home to a diverse population with a long history of ethnic and religious tensions. The Sultan's policies of repression and his favoritism towards certain groups alienated others, fueling resentment and unrest. Rebellions and uprisings erupted in various parts of the empire, further draining resources and destabilizing the state. The rise of the Young Turks marked a significant turning point in the history of the Ottoman Empire. Emerging from a blend of intellectual fervor and political discontent, the Young Turks sought to modernize the empire and challenge the autocratic rule of Sultan Abdul Hamid II. Their movement, driven by ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity, gained momentum rapidly. As they garnered support from various factions within the empire, their influence grew, leading to a series of events that would ultimately reshape the political landscape. The Young Turks' vision was ambitious, aiming to usher in an era of constitutional governance and democratic reforms. Their efforts culminated in the Revolution of 1908, a pivotal moment that set the stage for profound changes in the years that followed. In the twilight of his rule, Sultan Abdul Hamid II faced insurmountable challenges. The political tides turned against him, leading to his eventual exile. Stripped of power and influence, he spent his remaining years far from the grandeur of the palace, a poignant reminder of the impermanence of power. Recently, a hidden tomb was uncovered, shedding new light on the final resting place of Sultan Abdul Hamid II. This discovery has sparked renewed interest in his life and reign, offering historians a treasure trove of information that was long thought lost to the sands of time. Among the artifacts found within the tomb was a journal filled with personal reflections and accounts from the Sultan himself. This journal, untouched for over a century, offers a rare glimpse into his thoughts and experiences, revealing a side of the Sultan that history books have often overlooked. Intriguingly, a map was also discovered alongside the journal. This map, marked with cryptic symbols and annotations, hints at undiscovered secrets and mysteries. Scholars are now meticulously studying it, hoping to unlock the enigmatic clues that Sultan Abdul Hamid II left behind.